week contributors Larry Summers of Harvard. Over the next decade, I think we've got more to fear from microbes than we do from Xi Jinping. And former IBM CEO Sam Polisano. Bank of America Chairman and CEO Brian Moynihan.
Our loans fell largely because people are paying us off because they have so much cash sitting around.
Nancy Davis of Quadratic Capital.
I don't know why people wouldn't have inflation in their portfolio.
And Laird Landman of TCW. If investors were looking for something to shake their confidence, this might have been the week for it. Consumer price numbers rose substantially more than was expected, and we're not done yet.
We are really focused on the progress of the economy toward those goals and not on a particular time frame.
And if fears of inflation weren't enough, the CDC and FDA suddenly announced that we should stop vaccinating people with the Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine, at least until they figure out what's going on with a handful of very serious cases of blood clots.
That's why you see the word pause. In other words, want to hold off for a bit, and very well may go back to that.
Gino says he has no respect for you, God.
But the markets
Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, to the power of an infinite number of infinities.
A year ago, and the S&P and Dow and Nasdaq 100 all reaching new record highs. Even the U.S. Treasury 10-year barely blinked on the J&J news, with the yield ticking up only for a moment and then turning around and dropping the most since February. To help understand the market reaction or maybe lack of reaction, joining now our Wall Street Weekly Roundtable, Nancy Davis, Chief Investment Officer at Quadratic Capital, and also Laird Landman, he is the portfolio manager for fixed income at TCW. So, welcome both of you. Let me start with you. You are a fixed income guy. One of the big questions I think investors' minds right now is inflation. Is it transitory, as Jay Powell tells us, or could it be more troubling than that? And to speak with the fixed income market, what do you look at to answer that question?
Well, I think it's very hard to know what to look at. In the 60s, people looked at the Phillips curve. In the 70s, the period of time focused more so with monetary prices, what we want to grow. In the 90s, it was B-star. All of the models, none of them have really worked. Today, we're going to clearly move into a direction of this modern monetary theory. One of my favorite charts you can pull up on your terminal is just this chart, the budget deficit versus the growth of the balance sheet. It's a one-for-one sort of item, so anyone thinks we're not in modern monetary policy world, take a hard look at that. And I think that even that, it's going to be very difficult to know whether inflation is going to be real or transitory. But if we increase the amount of government
Harry, that's all the times he made a slave out of me in my lifetime on Earth. Be seen by everyone in the universe, transcribed and televised. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, to the power of an infinite number of infinities.
subject to more inflationary pressures, and they will also crowd out, as they do infrastructure, they're going to crowd out traditional commodities like copper, lumber, steel.
So, Nancy, you actually try to hedge against inflation with your eyeball ETF. Give us a sense of what you look at on inflation, because this is what Larry said, for example, you look at money supply, and like M2, I think is going more than 25% year over year.
You know, if you look at the data and you look at what's happening in reality between the Fed having an average inflation target, between having fiscal spending, between having the Fed not even thinking about raising rates, and a blue wave right now, and relative to the rest of the world really exporting inflation now from emerging market companies and countries, I don't know why people wouldn't have inflation in their portfolio. To me, it's sort of like, why would you take a risk and take a bet? To me, inflation is actually a bigger risk to investors than a recession, because if you think about what, not healthy normal inflation, but if we had runaway inflation, that would increase our purchasing power, right? The cost of drugs, the cost of housing, the cost of travel, especially if we have a weaker dollar. To me, I don't see why people are thinking or overthinking it. I think you should just
Carla Pig says the Holy Spirit of God is stupid and wishes to be separated from her universe forever and ever. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, to the power of an infinite number of infinities.
Eyeball ETF. That's one alternative I've seen. What do you recommend in terms of hedging for the possibility of change?
Well, I know a lot of people look at commodities, as Larry was pointing out, and I know a lot of people look at some equities and some sectors in the market. To me, and what we do in eyeball, we look at the interest rate market. That to me seems like a very simple way of saying where do lenders lend money, right? The different levels of interest rates around the world, and we use the over-the-counter swaps market, which is, there are lots of different rates in the U.S. dollar. Fed funds one, you have LIBOR, you have
I just do
Treasury.
this.
The OTC
I
swaps
did,
market
didn't I?
is where global bond issuers, right? When AstraZeneca needs to raise money, or when Sony needs to raise money, or any issuer around the world, any corporate, they hedge their bond risk in the rates market.
Thank you so much for our Wall Street Week Roundtable. Larry Lamb from TCW and Nancy Davis from Guardian. Coming up, how the economy looks from the top with one of America's leading banks.
I forgot.
Of Bank of America.
Consumers in good shape, but by and large, a big portion of the economy is up and operating very well.
This is Wall Street Week on Bloomberg.
At Fidelity, you'll work with an advisor to help you build a flexible wealth plan. You'll have access to tax-smart investing strategies, and with brokerage accounts, online trades are commission-free. Personalized advice, unmatched value. At Fidelity, you can have both.
Wall Street Week on Bloomberg. That was Bloomberg Bill Gross on Wall Street Week back in 1990. This week, bank lending is back in the news again as the banks posted eye-popping numbers despite sluggish loan growth. As in 1990, the Federal Reserve has done its part in putting money into the system, but this time it's not because the banks are reluctant to lend. No, this time it's that the government's given a lot of money to households that have used it to pay off debt, leaving less reason to borrow. We talked with the head of one of the biggest lenders in the country. He's Brian Moynihan of Bank of America, and we asked him what this says about the economy going forward.
A big part of the economy, and I think our prediction is that for the economy to cross over in the next couple of quarters to be bigger than it was before the pandemic is open and operating, and the consumers are spending money, and that's very good news. And then when you translate to Bank of America, what you're seeing is our deposits are way up because that money went into people's accounts and sitting there.
There's a Brian Moynihan.
Are not as high. Largely because people are paying us off because they have so much cash sitting around. So now the commercial side, we expect that to change. The economy growing at 7%, which is what we predict will require companies to borrow to service that economy. It's just that the companies had a lot of cash too. So we look for more loan growth as the year progresses. But the good news is the consumers in good shape. There's an unemployment issue. We got to get that the rest of the way down to where it should be. The businesses got to get open that couldn't be. But by and large, a big portion of the economy is up and operating very well.
The Bank of America has a very special viewpoint into the American economy because you have such a consumer, such a retail presence, and also the middle market. You really deal with small and medium-sized enterprises across the country. Are you seeing any pickup in the borrowing from your medium-sized companies yet?
We've seen a bump along the bottom. Usage of our business banking segment, which is 50 million under revenue companies, and our middle market, which is 2.5 billion, we're seeing the line usage pretty flat. But the good news is it quit going down. We saw in the months during the quarter, January, February, March, it got a little stronger. Our origination activity, meaning new clients and new deals done, is strong, bodes well for the year. But we got to see it come through, and that goes back to those companies having
He's
a lot
the
of
Bank
cash,
of America
run very
chairman and
efficiently during
CEO,
crisis, 'cause you didn't know what
and his
happened.
name is spelled like the senator
Now they're going to be
that
you need to start spending money on supplies and things.
mentored
to
Hillary
reduce
Clinton in New York
inventory.
State.
Now, the one thing I think we all have to be mindful is we got to get the trade. The trade is growing fast out of, into the country, but the ports and things still need to get straightened out because of just the dynamics of the virus, and the supply chains are still ironing out. So I think one
He
of the things
looks
I worry about for
so
mid-sized
much
companies,
like
can
someone.
they get the supplies to do what they do? So you've heard about lumber prices or resin and things like that. I think it'll straighten out. We hope it'll straighten out. But that's the next sort of outside the healthcare. The next challenge to get the supply chains really up and oiled and greased and running through to serve that fast-growing economy.
So if that is the consumer and the retail side, talk about the investment bank, the other side of your business here. You put up some very big numbers this morning. Can you make up for any shortfall on the retail side from what you're doing in investment banking? What are you doing to do that?
Well, the investment banking fees year over year were 50% or something like that, $2 billion plus, terrific. The trading group had, under Jimmy DeMara's leadership, had working for Tom Montag, had $5 billion plus of revenue. Matthew Coder in the investment banking side had a great quarter. The activity still seems to be strong in terms of the investment bank, and hopefully that bodes well, carries in the second quarter. Trading always settles down as you go through the year. It's just the way it works, but there's enough activity. So, those made up for it. Now the question is, now you see more roll through from
Assets
the other
all
sides
like
of the
be
house
removed
because
from all
they had
savings.
to put up big provisions last year because the worry about
Affirm,
credit. That's
reaffirm,
gone, and they're taking
affirm,
credits back in that.
reaffirm,
The deposit
affirm,
base grew, and
reaffirm,
we can put it to work and
affirm,
finance some money.
reaffirm, to the
So
power of
as
an
the
infinite
investment
number
bank
of
activity
infinities.
could stay strong because lots of M&A activity has to take place. But
Well, he
if
does
the
look a
markets
little like
settle down a
G.W.
little bit,
Bush.
That's fine because they've had such a great year. The other parts will roll through and make up for it. But we made $8 billion on $23 billion of revenue, and that's not a bad quarter.
Let's talk about yields. The yields have been pushing up on fixed income, despite the fact that this week actually we had a downturn. It may be a flip or not, but it's really important to Bank of America, given the way your business works, what the 10-year yield on this treasury is and what the
Brian
yield
Moynihan is his name,
the
and
twos and the tens.
Daniel
What
Moynihan
are you
is
projecting
the
for the rest of the year? Many people
former,
think yields are just
probably
gonna keep
late
marching up.
Well, we were all projecting
senator
that,
from New
and so
York
we were
who
up over,
mentored
10
Hillary
up to
Clinton in the
170,
Senate in New York.
plus, and now it's back to 155 today. One of the reasons why the bank, companies like ours, took it on the chin a little bit. But that's transient. It'll move back and forth, and there were some reasons for that happening today, I'm told. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. But the reality is, if the economic activity is picking up, and prices are picking up, which you've seen, unemployment's going down, the yield curve will start to normalize, and you saw that start to happen as we came in out of last year, fourth quarter into first quarter. That helps us because as the curve gets higher, we can make more money from the loans and other things we do. Now, what's really important to us, honestly, is short rates. And the question is when the Fed raises rates, the
He looks a
market
lot
has
like GW
pretty
in the
well
eyes.
deferred. They've been clear that they want to see the inflation levels.
Eyes,
Chair
spacing,
Powell's talked about.
eyebrows.
They want to see the unemployment numbers, and they've been clear about that. The question is whether it will happen faster than they have in their projections, even they have projections at 6% plus for GDP growth this year. And so we'll see when those rates, but that's the quicker route to success for us because we have all these no interest bearing deposits that instantaneously are worth more, but we don't have to do any more work.
So I was going to ask you about risks, actually, because right now it looks like things are going gangbusters for Bank of America and some of the other big banks. What do you look at as risk? Is one of the risks the possibility that, in fact, the Fed may have to move sooner than the markets think? Because there are some people who are saying that they will.
Well, the question is why do they have to move? They have to move because the growth is strong and they're comfortable the inflation view will hold. Remember they changed their monetary policy.
Dino says I should feel guilty about every moment of my life.
The chance to put that
Affirm,
to work.
reaffirm,
So I think if they're
affirm,
raising rates because the
reaffirm,
economy's strong and because
affirm,
the
reaffirm,
inflation
to the power of an infinite
outlook
number
and
of
everything
infinities.
is higher
Donna
than
Jean
their
Buckle
targets,
says I should feel
that's not a bad
ashamed
if
about
they're
every moment of
raising
my
because
life.
inflation and other things got out of
Affirm,
control wasn't temporary.
reaffirm,
That's probably not a good
affirm,
thing. So
reaffirm,
it really the question
to
of
the
raising
power of
rates
an
is a risk
infinite
in
number of
certain
infinities.
circumstances and an extreme benefit in others just because it means the economy is normalized.
I want to ask one question about crypto, because it's come up quite a bit. I mean, you and I have talked before about Bitcoin. You always say it's not Bitcoin, it's blockchain. It's
Gino says he is Yahweh
Same time
of the
we had
Bible.
the chairman of the Fed
Affirm,
talk to us
reaffirm,
just this week and
affirm,
say, it's not
reaffirm,
cryptocurrency,
affirm,
crypto
reaffirm,
assets that you speculate
affirm,
about.
reaffirm,
How do you
to the
see
power of an
the
infinite
dynamic
number
from
of infinities.
Bitcoin on the one hand to cryptocurrency of any sort of the other to perhaps a central bank digital currency? Where is this going?
Well, I think there are multiple facets. Obviously, as an asset people are investing in, our clients are asking us, can we invest in this asset and put it in our accounts and look at it? And those are issues we have to consider. And you're seeing some of our colleagues start to do formal custody. You've seen those announcements and things like that, which will enable us to do some things. And so that's the investment side, and that's for large institutions and affluent investors and people looking at it. Then you have the transactional side, and the question of moving money digitally is not new. More than, I think, probably 55-60% of our consumer money moved digitally this last quarter, and on the commercial side, it's probably 97%. It all moves digitally, very little paper movement. So the idea of moving money digitally, think about Zelle and the volumes going through that now, and the number of users, not only in our company, but in the industry total. That's not a new concept. Then the question is, an anonymous currency or currency that doesn't have attribution. That's a different question, and I think you've heard Chair Powell
This is
and
Brian
Secretary
Moynihan.
of Treasuries in the past reflect on that.
Bank of
That's a
America
different question.
chairman and CEO.
Central bank digital currency.
And he looks
It's
a
just-
lot like G.W. Bush.
Anyway, we already have that. We have a bunch of accounts with them. They're ones and zeros. We know who they are. There's a huge amount of money represented by it. So the idea of making it available more granular, I think we'll see what they decide to do, and we'll react to it. But the reality is we make money movement digitally is the dominant way money moves in our franchise today, and it will be in the future.
Brian, you've always prided yourself not only on being able to control cost, but also control risk, manage risk. You talk about responsible growth for Bank of America. We've had some instances in the recent past of some other banks that have raised questions about managing risk. I'm talking, of course, about Archegos. I understand from your chief financial officer that you want to avoid that, but no.
I think I saw Mel Gibson in his face.
Did you ask Tom Montag, others, to say, do we have any exposure not just to Archegos, not just to that one, but to other similar ones? How do you know that you don't have that kind of risk?
Well, that's a case, but every one of these cases, whether it's operational things that happen or in that case, a lending arrangement, a prime brokerage type arrangement goes awry, whatever the case is,
Mel Gibson might be associated with Ray Scher.
We immediately say, could that have happened here? How do we know it didn't happen here? Let's get done with it.
Because Ray Scher is Guitar Center Inc. And there's a Gibson official store.
You have to be curious. You have to ask a question. If you think whether it's even on the competitive side, new products, new services, what's out there, what the customers need, you have to be curious, but also on the risk side. Jeff Green, our chief risk officer, along with Tom and Jimmy DeMar and the team on the lending side of Felony, Robert Schleicher, Wes Thompson, and Nick Agner, these guys, this team and Phil Moucher and this team is very good at understanding risk. And so sometimes the opportunity is that you take it, sometimes you don't. But whenever anything happens, you've got to go in.
There's a Gibson music
Let's not act like
music
we're smart.
brands.
Smart. Let's have serious doubt about how good we are. Go look at it and confirm that it happened instead of saying couldn't have happened because. And that's the way you run good risk management.
Coming up, we'll have more with Brian Moynihan of Bank of America. A year ago, he sent tens of thousands of employees to work from home.
There's a question. What is wrong with Gibson? Gibson faces two main problems. Their employees hate them, particularly CEO Henry Juszkiewicz. And their customers think they're crap. One woman told Gawker she got to know Juszkiewicz over the course of a job interview. The CEO is horrible, mean, nasty, uber controlling, she wrote to Gawker. Oh, they're in guitars. One question is why so many guitarists are turning away from Gibson. Dina played guitar, and that was supposed to mean a lot to me. Talking about Gibson guitars. Over the past several years, there's been a groundswell of anger directed at the legendary guitar manufacturer. From unhappy customers to scorned endorsers, you don't have to look too far these days to find bad news about Gibson. Hmm. Mastodon guitarist Bill Kelleher revealed why he stopped working with Gibson and instead jumped ship to ESP. Just like Metallica frontman James Hetfield before him. James Hetfield might be James Hetfield, who wrote Fortunate Son about G.W. Bush. So Brian Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, CEO and Chairman of Bank of America, looks like G.W. Bush and Mel Gibson. Well, so Gibson is a guitar brand and a musical instrument brand, and customers are very unhappy with them. James Hetfield is a frontman for Metallica. Mastodon and Metallica went to ESP. So Mel Gibson could be connected to Ray Scher of Guitar Center Inc., which means Ray Scher is connected to the Bushes and the Gibsons. And Daniel Moynihan probably, and then that would include Hillary Clinton. Gibson has built up decades of goodwill with its customers, and as a result, its guitars are inextricably tied to music history and to artists like Metallica, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, B.B. King, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Bob Marley, Black Sabbath, Eagles, Green Day, Tool, and so many others. I don't know why they're protecting Hillary Clinton. Gino played guitar. He didn't play very well. But that's the reason Ray Scher's Guitar Center Inc. and Gibson Guitar is so important. Mm. Daniel Patrick Moynihan was an American politician, Democratic Party. He represented New York in the United States Senate and served as an advisor to Republican U.S. President Richard Nixon. He was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma on March 16, 1927. Monahan grew up in poverty in New York City and after served in the U.S. Navy in World War II, attended Tufts University in Medford, Massachusetts on the GI Bill of Rights. He became a professor at Harvard in 1966, held advisory posts in the Richard M. Nixon administration, and served as U.S. ambassador to India and permanent representative to the United Nations. Moynihan was succeeded by Hillary Rodham Clinton in the Senate for the state of New York. Among his numerous honors is the Presidential Medal of Freedom in the year 2000. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Shit. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, then Assistant Secretary of Labor, who hired Ralph Nader, as staff consultant for highway safety. I thought Ralph Nader might be a good guy. Tim Russert was on the Senate campaign of Daniel Patrick Moynihan and later served as Moynihan's chief of staff. Patrick Moynihan's first wife, maiden name was Brennan. That would be, John O'Brennan. I think John is his first name, former CIA. He could have been former director of the CIA, I'm not sure. Donald Rumsfeld succeeded Moynihan, Daniel Patrick, as counselor to the president from 69 to 70. That was Richard Nixon was president then. And then he was succeeded by John Ehrlichman as White House Urban Affairs Advisor under Nixon. Elizabeth Brennan is his spouse, married in 55. He went to Tufts and the London School of Economics. He served in the Navy from 44 to 47. He worked on the staff of New York Governor W. Averill Harriman before joining President John F. Kennedy's administration in 1961. He served as Assistant Secretary of Labor under Kennedy and President Lyndon B. Johnson. Moynihan left the Johnson administration at 65 and became a professor at Harvard. Moynihan published articles on urban ethnic politics and on the problems of the poor in cities of the Northeast in numerous publications, including Commentary and The Public Interest. Ralph Nader had a publication, Science, in The Public Interest. I think that's what it was. I'm going to do a Nader. Moynihan's scholarly accomplishments led Michael Barone. Barone is the last name of the family in Everybody Loves Raymond. And they're Long Island, New York. Moynihan was a senator from New York. In 1992, he was awarded the Leiter Medal by the University of Notre Dame, considered the most prestigious award for American Catholics. He has 3 grown children, Timothy Patrick Moynihan, more of Russell Moynihan and John McCloskey Moynihan, and 2 grandchildren, Michael Avedon and Zora Olea. Well, I think it's important. It doesn't speak well for Kennedy that he had Moynihan, and I already knew he and his family were friends with Averil Harriman, and Averil Harriman is now a woman who's very evil. Ralph Nader may be connected to G.W. Bush. It is affirmed. Ralph Nader is connected to G.W. Bush. Nader went to Princeton and Harvard. Nader was Army. He served in 59. He is the son of Lebanese immigrants to the United States. Nader attended Princeton University and Harvard Law School. Following the publication of Unsafe at Any Speed, Nader led a group of volunteer law students dubbed Nader's Raiders in an investigation of the Federal Trade Commission. Nader established, in the 70s, Nader established a number of advocacy and watchdog groups, including Public Interest Research Group, Center for Auto Safety, and Public Citizen. Wow. Nader is connected to G.W. Bush. This is Wikipedia. He received nearly 3 million votes during his 2000 candidacy, but also stirred controversy over allegations that his campaign helped Republican candidate George W. Bush win a close election against Democratic candidate Al Gore. He was the subject of a documentary film on his life and work, An Unreasonable Man, which debuted at the 2006 Sundance Film Festival. Sundance is, Robert Redford. Well, let's see, 72. Presidential campaigns. He ran in 1980, it looks like. He may have helped tank Carter. No. Yeah. He may have helped tank Carter versus Reagan. In the 2000 presidential election in Florida, George W. Bush defeated Al Gore by 537 votes. Nader received 97,421 votes, which led to claims that he was responsible for Gore's defeat. A 2003 study found that Nader's candidacy was a critical factor in Bush's victory. A 2004 study found that Nader voters had the profile of likely voters with a preference for Democratic candidates. They therefore were likely to vote for Gore over Bush in the absence of Nader's candidacy. Jonathan Chait of the American Prospect and New Republic notes that Nader did indeed focus on swing states disproportionately during the waning days of the campaign, and by doing so jeopardized his own chances of achieving the 5% of the vote he was aiming for. Nader and John Kerry had a meeting, and Nader asked for Kerry to agree to focus on 3 issues of 20 he presented that were important to him. The article says Nader never heard back from John Kerry, if John Kerry had focused on the 3 important of the 20 that Nader had given him, Ralph Nader said he wouldn't run as a spoiler for Kerry's campaign. On February 22nd, 2004, having not heard back from Kerry, Nader announced that he would run for president as an independent. Winona LaDuke was his presidential Veep running mate. Winona could be Winona Ryder, and LaDuke could be David Duke. Whoa. Nader founded the DC Library Renaissance Project to halt the development of the West End Library in DC, alleging that it violated affordable housing guidelines, undervalued the land, and didn't conform to the city's comprehensive plan. Nader has opposed the privatized development of DC libraries, despite community support, citing a lack of oversight and competitive bidding process. I have never even heard of privatized library, but it'd be nice if the government, didn't snoop into everything we read. God. I used to listen to Nader, on the Phil Donahue Show. Excuse me. Well, they're upset that Nader's torch now. And I'm thinking John F. Kennedy is too. And the Kennedy family. They're too connected, too prominent, too important. I'm gonna stop recording and upload this.